Our final topic in our learning objectives is to look at the relationship between financial markets and the corporation. How do they interact? In A, you can see that the company issues securities. What do we mean by securities? We mean stocks and bonds, typically. We acquire assets in two forms: current assets, as we mentioned before, cash. We can put some in cash, accounts receivable, inventory, prepaid assets, or fixed assets in the form of property, plant, and equipment. We start turning the crank and generating more income by building products, and we get some cash flow from those assets. We can use that cash flow to pay the government in D in the form of taxes. We can pay shareholders in the form of dividends, should we have shares. And we can also plow back some of that cash back into the company to grow. And there you can see in F, we can pay out dividends and debt payments on your bonds. So many uses for this cash that's being generated by the company, cash flow from assets. We can have primary market transactions and secondary market transactions. The primary market transaction is the initial sale of securities, otherwise known as an IPO, initial public offering. The company takes on the role of the seller, usually aided by an investment bank, and money raised goes back to the corporation once you sell the stock in the initial public offering. These offerings are typically done on the NASDAQ and the NYSE, sold to the general public. We may also negotiate a sale with a life insurance company. So we may do a private placement with a life insurance company who has lots and lots of cash. They buy your shares of stock. And by doing this, we avoid any regulatory requirements to report to the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. IPOs on their own can be very, very expensive. So that's one downside. It does cost lots of money to hire an investment bank to properly issue that stock, that initial public offering. Secondary markets are where we play, you and I play. These are where stocks and bonds are bought and sold to the public after the original sale in the IPO or primary market transaction. Here we trade these again on the NASDAQ and the NYSE in the stock realm, and we sell these stocks back and forth to one another, either via direct transaction in an auction market or a dealer transaction in an electronic market, like the NASDAQ. Corporation not directly involved in these transactions. So there you see on the left, the dealer market is the NASDAQ, located down there in Times Square, New York. No physical location where trades are made, but they're made all over the world electronically. Auction market is the New York Stock Exchange, now called NYSE ICE. Intercontinental Exchange was acquired NYSE. And so it's now known as NYSE ICE. Buyers and sellers are matched. So if you want to buy some IBM, it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange will match the buyer of IBM with the seller of IBM, and the transaction happens fairly seamlessly and very rapidly these days. What is a secondary market? A market where securities are bought and sold to the public after the original sale in the IPO, or primary market transaction. What's the difference between a dealer market and an auction market? Auction markets have a physical location, and it's a matchmaker kind of market where buyers and sellers are matched. The dealer market involves buying and selling from inventory, just like a car dealer or a book dealer, and that's all done electronically. No need for a big operation like the New York Stock Exchange. And is an IPO a primary market transaction or a secondary market transaction? It is clearly a primary market transaction. It is the first time that stock is listed and issued to the public. Very hard for the average person to get their hands on those IPOs unless you started the company or one of the founders or are a major client of one of the big investment banks working on the deal. Some new and evolving trends in finance, very exciting things are happening. So these are things you should start to research and pay attention to and watch and experience, because these are breaking at the current time. Fintech, banking fintech. You see fintech operations getting into mobile payments like Venmo and PayPal, becoming very, very popular. And also crowdfunding. I've crowdfunded several projects via Kickstarter. You can also do something for a friend on GoFundMe. I'm currently participating in a GoFundMe project locally for a young man who's suffering from cancer. We're trying to gather some funds to help pay his medical bills. The blockchain and cryptocurrencies are a very, very hot topic these days. I'm fascinated by both of them. I invest in both of them in things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu. You can also invest in NFTs. I've done that in a very small way. I just nibble at these things. I don't put major dollars in them. My hope is that they will turn into major dollars someday. I also invest in the metaverse, which I find very interesting. In point of fact, I just purchased for a very small amount of money the apartment that I grew up in Brooklyn as a young child. So I thought that was very cool. They offered it for sale. I went in there and saw it and purchased it, I think, to the best of my knowledge, I think. So the metaverse is very, very popular and increasing in popularity these days. So investigate the blockchain. I'm trying to understand what that is and exactly what that does and how these cryptocurrencies operate and which ones are doing well, which ones are not doing so well. We understand and watch. When we watch, it's a very volatile market. And the advice there is don't invest any more than you can afford to lose because you may just lose it tomorrow. Example being Terra Luna recently. InsurTech is kind of a new fintech in that you can now buy homeowners insurance on Lemonade app, and you can now buy health insurance using Oscar Health. That's kind of a new trend. Also robo-advising. So you get stock and investment advising from sites like Betterment and SoFi. You can do some stock trading and crypto trading on an app on your phone using Robinhood and invest as little as $1 in this app called Acorn. So investigate some of these apps, financial apps that are gaining in popularity. And finally, some budgeting apps for your own personal budget. You can use Mint or Honeydew when you're doing a joint plan or budget with your spouse or partner. So these are some of the new evolving trends in finance, so keep an eye on them. This is a summary of our learning objectives. Hopefully you understand them now. What is the role of the financial manager and what is on the financial manager's mind all day long? What are the various and sundry forms of business organization that you can adopt when you start your business? What's the overall number one goal of financial management? To maximize current market value per share of existing stock. Ask yourself, can you get into an agency problem, especially if you're a student athlete at a young age, but also when you're a middle manager or an executive of a corporation? What kind of things do you have to watch out for in the form of an agency problem? And finally, how do financial markets interact with a corporation? Very interesting topic in its own right. Hopefully you enjoyed this first session of Introduction to Corporate Finance.